Are you ready?
Starting now?
Oh, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And we have a guest on today that we've been running and chasing for how many months now? 6 months? You told us to get our shit together first before you decided to come on? True story. We were messaging the other day, and I said, I think it was since March or something like that. And yeah, she said to me, I'm sure I said something like, get your shit together, and then I'll think about coming on. So this is the
and hopefully, and thankfully, she came on anyway.
Right. Yeah. And so this is the type of guest we're dealing with, but that's the kind of guest we enjoy. So, Christine, welcome. We're going to let you introduce yourself real quick. Just a quick intro of who you are and kind of where you came from, and then we'll give you a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to talk about today. Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. I like that intro. What kind of person we're talking to today? It's like a hostile witness.
Right. Well, okay. We know you well enough, so we know what we're dealing with here.
Okay. Okay. So, like you said, my name's Christine. I am a mother of 4, and these are 4 little kids. When they were born, they were all under age 4. So I definitely have had my hands full. And so that's actually part of why I created my page. And so I can get into that a little bit later. And so now I'm just trying to live life and survive with these kids and make sure that I'm, keeping myself and my mental health strong so that way my family can stay strong as well.
Awesome. And Mike, go ahead and I always use my little air quotes here. Give our esteemed guest here kind of a little breakdown of what our quote unquote format is. And then Christine, right. Before you start, I want to give a little bit of background to how we connected too. But Mike, go ahead about what our setup is.
Well, basically, we want to know about what you're doing today and how you're staying sober. We all know how to get fucked up. We all know how to ruin our lives and ruin the lives of the people around us. We got that part down. We want to know about what you're doing today to make your life better.
Got it.
Yeah, and just a real quick rundown. And I know I teased to begin with about us, chasing you for, whatever it's been, number of months. But we've talked about you a lot. I think you've probably been mentioned on our podcast here as much as anyone, because when you and I connected, it was with other name we had on Instagram to begin with before we started this page. Mm-hmm. And then as we started this page, I started asking you just a ton of questions. Mm-hmm. And I want everyone to know that this is the person that we always talk about, our friend from California, the chick from California. Sober is a mother is her Instagram page. We'll have all that listed in the description. But seriously, thank you. You've helped us. I can't even tell you how much. We were talking to some folks today about how much you helped get us started, and even to this day, I ask you questions every once in a while. So we appreciate you for what you've done for us, and your story, I think, is going to let everyone know what you're doing for everyone else out there. So thank you.
Oh, yes, thanks, pal.
You're welcome, champ. That's the other thing. She calls me pal. I started calling her champ months ago. So yeah, that's our. We have nicknames. Isn't that cute?
That is cute.
And Mike, this is the one also that called us, said we sounded cute together. So yeah.
Ah,
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
see. Well, go ahead, Chief. Tell us your
I
story.
call it like I see it. I mean, come on.
Right.
Good.
But yeah, go ahead. Go into your story and tell us how you got to to where you're at. A little bit about your page and how you stay sober.
Sure. So I think to get to the part where I'm at now, I'm just going to do a quick background as to where I came from. So like you said, we all know how to get fucked up and kind of the places we've been and did and the shame we felt. Um,
Hmm.
but mine started when I was young. It was in high school, and I was trying to fit in, and I just had low self esteem, a lot of daddy issues, and just background issues, and so I got into boys and alcohol and cocaine, and I don't know how, but I graduated high school and went straight into college, into a university, and it was happened to be Chico State, which is like the biggest party school. And so,
Yes,
uh,
I went to high school in Sacramento. I know the reputation well.
oh, did you? Okay. Yeah, so I went to Chico and I fit in perfectly, right? So all my drinking and partying, and I was able to balance school for a while. And then, something happened, something traumatic, and I remember the first time that I made the choice to drink alcohol. And I already knew that I was going to be an alcoholic. It was just like something people told my dad told me. And it was just like, you're going to be one, you're going to be one. And so I remember the moment that I was like, well, fuck, I am going to be one because I'm about to drink this right now, not because everybody's around and having fun. I was like, I'm going to drink this because I don't want to feel. And so, ooh, I've never said that. Um, it's heavy. So yeah, I didn't want to, I just remember wanting to escape, and so I drank and I kept drinking and smoking, and, and from there it just kind of lost touch with everyone and everything because I was going down a different path, and I had a really great boyfriend at the time, and he stuck by my side, and I just strung him along for so long because it was like my safe zone, right? So we have the safety side of it, but then I'm over here like destroying everything, and he's like, "It's okay, it's okay." So I guess he kind of enabled me for a while, and eventually he was like, "Okay, I can't deal with you anymore." So I
Right.
moved along and did more fucked up things, and I ended up being a bartender, which was like the ideal job for any alcoholic, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
So it was just a party constantly, and it took me a long time, but I finally graduated college, and I remember my boyfriend at the time, he was like, okay, you've graduated, now it's time for you to stop being a bartender, and I was like, no, I make so much money, because
Right.
it was, I mean, I would make like $300 cash a night, but all
Wow.
that money would go back into the bar. And
Right.
I remember one time I had a therapist because my mom made me go to therapy. Um, the lady was like, "How much do you spend?" And I was like, "Well, each night I probably spend like 200." And she's like, "This is every night?" I was like, "Well, the nights I'm not working." And she's like, "Oh my, how do you pay for stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I just kind of make it work, and I have my boyfriend pay for things."
Hmm.
So it just kind of got messy, and then there was a time where it got so messy, where I just felt so alone, and I was hanging out with this other addict, and he was into pills, which I never really got into. I really loved alcohol. There's anything that messed with it was just not for me. So no coke,
Hmm.
no pills. Like I just wanted straight alcohol. I don't know if you guys relate to that. Um,
Yeah.
Bill can, I can't because I found the pills enhanced the alcohol. But go ahead, please.
well,
Yeah. I'm
actually,
I'm straight up.
Actually, you're right. You're right. This actually goes right into what I was saying. So yeah, I met this guy. He was into pills. You're right. And I actually did some. And I remember being in the grocery store one time and like the pills hitting, and I was already drinking a little bit, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Whoa, this is
Hmm.
amazing." So yeah, soon after that, I was using a few pills here and there. I didn't really have like a hookup or anything. It was just like whatever. I worked in the bar scene, so I just kind of did whatever. But anyways, so this guy was like trying to get with me, and I was like, no, it was I had a long day. I was super wasted, and I just wanted to go pass out. And he was like, no, come over, come over. And I was like, no, dude, I don't want to come over. And so that just, triggered him to say all these horrible, horrible, horrible things that, it wouldn't affect me now because I'd be like, yeah, whatever, dude, you're just pissed because I wouldn't wake up with you. But back then, right, I was like, damn, he's right. Like, I am a loser. I am a whore. I am a mess that nobody will ever want. And, people, I'm keep getting dumped left and right. Or, I was just such a mess. And so I had been in so much pain and really felt so alone that I went home and I actually, I grabbed the bottle of pills that I did have and an extra bottle of pills that my stepdad had in his house because I had moved back in with him. And I was already wasted. And so I drank the bottle of wine my mom had, and I took all the pills. I remember counting each and every one, putting them in. And I was like, God, please don't let me wake up. And so yeah, I mean, my goal was to definitely end my life, to end the pain, because I was just so alone and just hurting. And I had never felt that kind of hurt. And I was only 23 years old. And so I didn't know anything about life other than like, this is everything. This is like your brain as it is thinks that this is everything about life. Like, I'm never going to get out of here. I'm just going to feel like this forever. So anyway, well, obviously it didn't work. I woke up as I was being put into the ambulance briefly. And I remember asking, am I alive? And they're like, yes. They're like, what, did you do this to yourself? And I was like, yes. I was like, oh, I wish I didn't wake up. I wish it would have worked. And they're like, what? So obviously I was put on a, 5150 for a while. And I was just in and out of consciousness for a little bit. And I went, and the hard thing is about being a woman and in recovery or in active addiction and being, a cute little blonde young thing, people don't think that you have the problem that I had. And I just felt so dismissed and I felt like nobody saw it and nobody understood. And I just really wanted someone to just like save me. Right. But I didn't realize I had to save myself. I just wanted someone to rescue me. And so, oh gosh, it was rough. And I remember the ambulance when they took me from the hospital to the, I don't know what you call that place where they send the 5150 people before I could be
psych
released.
ward.
Yes, the psych ward. Yeah, thank you. As I was going
I
to the
know
psych
because
ward.
I'm a fan.
Yeah, you know it?
No, I've got the T-shirt.
Okay. I should get one of those. But yeah, I remember the guy, I don't know if he was a paramedic or whatever. He was like, man, he's like, why are you in here? Why are you doing this? You're so pretty. Why would you do this? And I thought, you know what? Fuck you, man. It just really like, how are you? Like, you don't even know like what this is so. Oh, that was like part of my problem was that I just was I was so frustrated that people couldn't see past the exterior. And so, so anyways, I went on, I didn't stop drinking after that. I mean, I probably tried for a couple days, but it just, never stopped. So anyways, fast forward not many years, let's say 5 years or so. I'm 27, 28. I can't remember how old I was, 27 or 28 when I got sober. And the last few months of that, I was just completely saturated with alcohol. I was bartending. Actually, I had gotten fired from bartending. Because I was just such a mess. Like, I couldn't do anything. And I was like, they thought I was stealing, but I was just not ringing it in the right, I just wasn't functioning anymore. And so I got fired, but they still let me work there because I didn't have any money. And so they let me do like the hostess or whatever. I'd walk around, a waitress, right? I walk around the tray and basically just party all night as I was behind the bar. But I wasn't responsible for making drinks. So it was kind of like, oh man, I could get even more drunk this way. And so, so I was like, okay, I could do this. Excuse me. So when I wasn't drinking and partying and pretending like everything was okay, well, I was still drinking, but when I wasn't partying with other people, I was drinking alone in secret. And it was really hard to hide at that point because I had to drink so much. People ask me all the time, they're like, well, how much did you drink? And I have to answer like, well, it doesn't matter how much I drank, you can't go off of what I drank to compare because what I drank was insane, but you could still just drink a bottle of wine a night and still have the same type of problem. So,
absolutely.
So that's hard to explain to some of the people I talk to, and I do love to talk to people about that aspect of it too. But anyways, um, so I was waking up in the middle of the night to have to drink because my withdrawals were so bad. And
Right.
I was with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, actually at the time, and he was having a rocky past himself, and we just kind of were there for each other, and we accepted each other, and we're like, yeah, we're both kind of fucked up, but I love you, you love me, let's hang out. And so
Uh-huh.
he didn't know to the extent that I was drinking. He didn't know that I was secretly doing it. But I had a bottle hidden under his bed, and I would constantly like replace it. And so I would wake up, roll over in the middle of the night, take a swig. It was cheap, warm vodka, and I drink enough so I could pass out. Yeah, so like pop off. And so then I remember, I think I wrote about this in the story that I recently posted, but there was one time, and I barely remember anything. So the memories I talk about are like the only memories that I have.
Right.
It was such a bad time. And so one of the mornings I drank the whole stash. I didn't have any stash, and I was like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? And like I would, because I have epilepsy, I already had the danger of being, having a seizure, and so my
Right.
body reacts differently to alcohol than some other people as it is. So I go into this liquor store at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and I'm like shaking, and my whole body is like just can barely walk because my legs were shaking so bad. And I go and I get a bottle of like grapefruit or whatever, grapefruit juice, and I ask him for a bottle of vodka behind the counter, and he's like, are you sure you want that? And they're both looking at me like, what the fuck, man? And I was like, just, I don't know what I said, but he gave it to me, and they're like, just drink the juice, just drink that juice. And I was like, okay,
Mm.
will do. And
Yeah,
so,
it's like a drug dealer saying you've had enough.
yeah, yes. Yeah, what they expect. So, so I went and I drank it, and I couldn't keep it down. So I was puking and drinking and puking and drinking until I could finally stop the shakes. And I remember sitting there and being like, oh my God, like this is bad. Like I'm gonna die. Like my body will not take this anymore. I can't think anymore. I can't do anything. And so within that same month, it was Christmas season. My sober date is December 22nd. And I remember that last night I was trying to wrap a gift, and I couldn't. It took me all day to wrap a stupid present because I kept drinking, obviously, and so it was distracting, but I just couldn't, my fingers couldn't tie the bow. I couldn't figure out how to fold it. It was just so bad. One of my girlfriend, and I don't remember any of this, but one of my girlfriends came over to try and take care of me, and I guess she eventually left. I passed out. I woke up, I passed out. I don't know, something along those lines, but I was at my mom's, and I had a room there. And so I remember waking up at one point. I don't know. I was hysterical and I was upset. I didn't have any more alcohol. I think I was searching for it, and I just was panicking, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, it just hurt so bad, physically, mentally, and I couldn't even think. Like my brain was, I come to find out it was like wet brain.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh my God. And so I literally dropped to my knees, and I never prayed. I didn't believe in God. I thought, how could there be a God if he did this? And the only time I did pray was if I wanted to die, and that doesn't work. So I was like, okay, God, okay, I'm ready. Please save me. I will do anything. Please just help me, save me, save me. And I just kept saying, please save me. And so, and I don't know if this was a hallucination or not, but I swear to you, I saw like a shiny white, just like a beam of hope. Like I'd never felt that before. It was just like, I'm Catholic now, so I know it was the Holy Spirit, even if I hallucinated it. But I just felt this courage and this hope that I had never felt before. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to call that number that this bright white light seems to be shining on. And it was the pamphlet that I don't know where it came from. Someone gave it to me, I'm sure, of,
Uh-huh.
of helplines. And I called one, and the lady answered, and I don't remember much of that either, but I do remember her saying, you need to go to detox now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I
Right.
can't, I have to work in the morning. And she's like, girl, you work at a bar. And I was like, yeah, but I can't, I can't leave it. I'm opening and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you need to call someone, I'll stay on the phone with you, and you need to call someone or text them and tell them that you can't come in. She's like, because it's
Right.
either you either go to detox and live, or you go to the bar and die.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, those words I will never forget. That lady I will never forget. I don't know her name or where she came from, but that lady saved my life. For sure. Well, I mean, I guess it was a combination of things, but I will forever be grateful for her. And she stayed on the line when I even went to go tell my mom. I had to wake her up and be like, Mom, I need help. And of course, she's
Mm-hmm.
like, thank God, she's relieved.
Right.
And so everyone's on the same page, and we find the place to take me. And so, I go to a detox facility, and because of my epilepsy and because of how bad I was, they sent me to the hospital, and I had to get all fixed up before I could go in there. And I can't tell you what my blood alcohol content was. I mean, it doesn't matter. I knew I was dying.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to this place, and I remember it was in the ghetto. And you have to remember, I'm like this super like little white girl coming into this ghetto place with, people that you wouldn't normally think that I would feel comfortable with. But I did. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, these were my people, and I knew it. And
Right.
my mom was like, I can't leave you here, because I was like on the couch with someone who appeared to be homeless, it's just, I don't know. And she's like, I can't leave you here. I was like, Mom, you have to go. You have to
Mm-hmm.
go. I have to be here. And it was just like such a feeling of power for me to finally say, like, no, I got this. And so I just was like, no, Mom, you got to go. These are my people. I'm fine. I'm fine. Like, this is where I need
Mm-hmm.
to be. And so
Right.
she left, and I stayed, and I don't remember what really happened. I had my own room because it was the holidays and no other females were there. So I got lucky and I got my own room. And um, I had some pills of some sort that they were giving me that basically knocked me out during the most painful part of it. And so,
Right.
yeah, so thank God for that. But it was still painful, and I still, it took a couple days for me to function. And I remember that finally the guy came in, and he's like, look, you need to get up and you need to work. And I was like, huh? Like, I don't want to work. So I had to clean, and take care of the house with the other people. And they're like, okay, you're ready for your first meeting. And I was like, oh, I've never been to a meeting. Well, I mean, I had gone to them with my dad before when he was going to AA. And so I was somewhat familiar with the setup of it. And I was like, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to talk. They're like, don't worry, you just sit here. And so I did. I just sat there and I listened, and I was like, what the fuck? I've been missing all of this for so long. I could have been sober a long time ago, you know,
Right.
but I didn't know. And for whatever reason, AA was so intimidating to me. Maybe it was the fact that I knew if I went, it would be real, that
Right.
I had to, that everyone would know, and I would have to commit, and that I couldn't, my type A can't be a failure. So I didn't want to go and then fail. So I was like, okay, here we go. So I was there for a few days, and then I finally was like, look, I checked myself in here. I want to check out before, because it was Christmas Day. And I was like, I want to go
Mm-hmm.
home. And they're like, well, we don't recommend it, but you can go. They're like, but we really want you to do like an outpatient program. So I
Right.
tried. And the thing about it, I didn't have any money. So all the things that I did were a lot of the things that people that were forced to do because of
Right.
whatever legal mess they got into. And so the group I
Mm-hmm.
was in, it was only like one other person I related with, and he had a heroin addiction, and both him and I were looking at each other the whole time like we just got it. And the other people, bless their hearts, they just weren't ready, and it was obvious. And I was like, this isn't good for me. I can't be here. This is not the right healing place. So they're like, okay, well, why don't you do 90 AA meetings in 90 days? And I was like, okay, that sounds crazy, but I'll try. So I was like, here we go, right? And then I think I told you, Bill, about the old timer who was giving me a hard time about my age.
Right.
And I was like, it took a lot for me to even be there. And then for this guy to come up and say, hey, I know, you're pretty young. This is your first time. It's okay. You're probably going to relapse. And when you do,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to come back. And I was like,
Right.
you fucking dick.
Yeah.
You don't know me, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you have no idea who you're messing with, pal, right? So I got super mad. I had such anger issues, but I used
I
that anger finally. What?
Yeah, I was,
Right.
no, I was going to say
Well,
I know nothing about the anger issues. I
right.
was a little mad.
And of course, how do you get an alcohol to do something? You tell them that they can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, no, dude, no. So I kept coming back, and it
Mm-hmm.
was rough. I don't remember much of it at all. I mean, there's like a whole year that I've blacked out, including a lot of the AA stuff that I did. But I mean, obviously, it helped. So I did that for a while. I don't know exactly how long, but I think the biggest part of my recovery, yes, AA held me accountable. That douchebag pissed me off enough to stay, and
Yep.
just the environment was right for me to start making changes. And luckily, I
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of support to where I could not work for a month while I was trying to find a job. And trying to find a job when all your experience is bartending was very difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
ended up getting this job as an outside sales rep. And I think, Bill, you're familiar with sales, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the outside sales is no joke, and especially this one where you didn't really need to have any experience because it's like door to door, business to business.
Right.
So I would go to territory and just go from business to business to business, trying to sell them paper. Like I was literally like working from, like, The Office, that show, The Office.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was me, except for on the street. So
Right.
yeah, so I'm like, hey, would you like to buy some paper? And so it was a lot of rejection. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that particular job, thank God, was put in my life for a reason, because it was so hard to deal with that rejection, things that I'd been running from a long time,
Mm-hmm.
right? So all those anger issues, all that fear of rejection, all the fear of failure, it was all being like introduced into this job, and it was so hard. But I didn't really have any other options, and I didn't want to give up. And so I learned, and I had a really great mentor. And of course, I went to AA meetings every day after that job, because otherwise I probably would have
Mm-hmm.
drank. I probably would have. And so
Right.
it was just a lot. So the guy that I worked for, he was pretty young too, and it was his business, so he was new. He had just been in that same role, and he was so good to me. And I told him right away my story, and I mean, there was times that we would talk, and he would start crying, and it was just, this is the part I always choke up at, because he meant so much to my recovery, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he knows it. Yeah, we don't talk anymore because he moved in the business, whatever, and they closed. But it was just that having someone that I didn't know, who didn't know my background, who only knew me as the hardworking Christine, the one who
Mm-hmm.
hit the ground, who never gave up, who got really good at her job, made like top sales rep out of the region and national numbers. And it was just like, wow, I'm good at something other than drinking. Because I had always thought I was like an imposter, that I only graduated college because I snuck by, and I only did this because
Right.
I was a fake.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I was like, wow, okay, this guy believes in me. This company believes in me. I think I believe in me. So I was finally confident without alcohol. And then, so my husband and I, my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, look, I need to move. I need to get out of this town. I'm ready for a fresh start. Like, let's move closer to where I'm working. And I think at that time, I had switched jobs because that was such a really hard job. And I switched to like working for a rental car company. And so I was like, let's move closer to the airport so that way I can, just have easier transportation, blah, 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 whatever. He didn't want to go. And so I was like, look, man, this is my sobriety. It's either you come with me or I go alone.
Right.
And I just knew, like, hey, and I had the support of the AA people that were like, yeah, you got to set your boundaries. You got to stick with, like, don't change
Right.
anything for him. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna go. And so luckily he came with me. And so, look where we are now. He's my husband. And that poor guy, man, he's gone through it with me. It's like even sober, I'm a lot to handle. So anyways, after I moved, I actually stopped going to AA meetings, and it wasn't because I planned to. It was just that I was just so busy, and I actually switched jobs again. I had gotten a call from a recruiter for a College of the Arts. I'm not going to say which one, but I got a job as a recruiter because I have my degree is in art education. And I was like,
Nice.
wow, okay, so I'm an artist. I specialize in art education, and you want me to work at this art college? Yes. So I went there and I met lots of sober people, like not that they were, not in recovery, but just people that didn't drink. And
Right.
it was weird. I was like, you guys don't drink? What do you do for fun?
Ah, the mythical creatures. Yes, they do exist.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, dang, can we be friends? So I slowly but surely started making friends that didn't drink. And I slowly but surely unfriended people that did. And I only lived about 40 minutes away from where I used to live. So I could still see some of the people. But honestly, over time, it was just best for me to cut everybody out. So I
Right.
did. I only have like one or two friends back then. And the people that I became friends with, I mean, we were doing super dorky stuff. And I never knew that there were other dorky people out there that didn't need alcohol to be dorky and not care. So,
Right.
oh my gosh, you will laugh. I was part of the cat club. I made like these like super dorky stickers and I'd stick them on people's desks, and I put like a rear view mirror on my cubicle so I could see the girl behind me and we could just make funny faces. I mean, it was just such a great atmosphere for me to heal and to grow. And I'm so proud of myself for knowing when it was time to step up, because I could have easily stayed in that hard job and I could have easily let it get to me and drank eventually, because I think that type of job, like it could have really gone to me. It was hard. So anyways, so I went from there to all of a sudden like getting engaged, buying a house, getting pregnant. And my husband and we did IVF. So it was a big process. It was a very hard, emotionally draining. And it was like, I was going through all these things that were so hard. And I was like, damn. And I never once craved alcohol.
Right.
Out of all that, like I couldn't tell you when it changed. But I think probably when I met those people that didn't drink and I had fun without it. I think
Right.
then all these other things that we handled, things that would break people, didn't break me. And we had our babies through IVF. We, like I said, I fixed my credit. We bought a house. Like I remember the mortgage broker, she's like, well, one of your student loans is outstanding. You got to fix that. You got to write a letter. So they blah, 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 blah. And I wrote a letter like outlining my addiction and why I didn't pay, like all this stuff. It was like 3 pages long. She's like, you don't really need to say all that. I was like, no, I do. Just
No,
give it to
actually, I
me.
do. Right.
Yeah, it's like, no, please hear me out.
Yeah, I was like, I need you to know I'm really not a bad person. So yeah, I mean that everything went up, everything was up from there. And then after we had our fourth, she was a big surprise. I really struggled with postpartum depression, and it was really bad. I had suicidal ideations, and I was just like, not again. No, like I can't be here again. Like I'm not even drinking and I'm feeling like this. My rage was just out of control, and I was screaming and yelling and just not the mom I wanted to be. And I was like, dang, I got to do something about this. So I finally, with help, I needed help, because even then I wasn't drinking, but my mental state wasn't there. And I had to have
Right.
help, just like
Yep.
when we were drinking, because we're not in our right mind. Right?
Right. Yeah, we can't fix we can't fix ourselves alone. We need
Yeah.
help from other people to point
Yeah.
us in the right direction.
Yeah, so finally I had a few people, even like as I was posting weird stuff on Facebook, and I had a friend who I hadn't talked to in a long time. She called me and she's like, Christine, can I do anything for you? And she lives in another state. And I was like, no, you can't do anything. And she's like, can I just like, do you have any phone calls that you need me to make? And I was like, girl, yes, I do. I don't know why, but I just couldn't. I had so many things that were overwhelming, and even the simplest thing of calling my therapist and canceling, rescheduling an appointment, I didn't want to do it because I felt like, oh my gosh, if I cancel this, he's going to think I don't want to heal and whatever. So she did it, and I always remember that because I was like, dude, that meant a lot because then I had that one less thing to worry about. It just took the anxiety away, and all of a sudden I was like, hey, if I delegate, this is much easier. Duh. And so then from there, I just, I had a therapist, I had a psychiatrist, I had a lot of family support. I got involved finally when they got my medications straightened out. I figured out that one of my seizure medications, because I'm epileptic,
Right.
one of my seizure medications was a big source of the rage. So I stopped that. Oh, thank God. I was like, woo, that felt much better. And then I started being able to put pieces back together, and I started getting involved in advocacy groups, and I for postpartum depression. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. I'm talking to women that have gone through the same type of thing. I'm talking to people that need help. I'm talking to people that can make change. And I got involved with 2020 Mom, who they're responsible for the Blue Dot Project, which you guys probably aren't familiar with, but women that are listening will probably be familiar with.
Awesome.
And so I started doing things here in Sacramento at the Capitol and making phone calls and, trying to make a difference. And then all of a sudden, 2020 hit and things changed, and I started losing it again. And so I ended up
So
switching.
basically, you're saying, before you go too much farther, you're saying helping other people helped you.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Just wanted to make that point.
Yes, thank you. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but it was.
Right.
And
We
so when
generally
2020 hit and I had to stop what I was doing, it hurt. So then I switched and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it online. And so I created, at first it was the Quad Shop Mom, and it was just like a funny page, and I had a vlog, and I would just like talk about how it sucks to be a mom in 2020, and it was great, except for I wasn't really dealing with my issues. So then I went and created Medicated Mom, and that's what what am I now? Sober as a Mother. That's what that started as. So that same page, and I started posting stuff about like being on medication like anti-anxiety, antidepressant, because there's such a stigma. And I was talking about that. And then I started, I used it as a journal, and then I started making posts about alcoholism and addiction and how that played a role in all the things in my life, and postpartum depression and everything. And people were really starting to relate. And I remember this one post, this lady commented, she's like, that's great, but why is your handle Medicated Mom?
Right.
I was like, well, that's a good point. It doesn't really make sense anymore, does it? So I switched it to Sober as a Mother. And then that's basically when I met you, Bill, because I had just switched my handle. I just started doing specifically addiction things. And then you saw my page take off. Like,
so that was like the beginning of 2022 this year then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's pause real quick. We're going to do like a 60-second break here real quick. I think this is a good place to pause for a minute. So seriously, everyone, we're going to be back in 60 seconds. So hang on. Hey everyone, it's your friends at Sober Not Mature. Have you visited our website lately? If not, it's www.SoberNotMature.com. While you're there, you can listen to all of our episodes or find links to where our episodes can be played, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and others. We do have a blog page for some of the writings that we've done. We've got a web store where you can take a look at all of our merchandise, buy yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie, maybe even a mug. You can see our review section where you can actually leave a review or see what people have been saying about us. You can check out our sponsor page. We've got a contact page. Basically, any opportunities that we have to contact or interact with us are on our website. Also, you can buy us a coffee, or you can just find other ways to support the podcast. Visit us today at www.SoberNotMature.com. All right, everyone. Sorry about that. We're back, but hopefully you enjoyed that quick little message. So, what we're back to now, you had your medicated mom, now you're sober as a mother, and that you just started as of this year, though, right? I didn't see that part. I didn't realize. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I had been doing the IG like stuff since 2020, really, the beginning of 2020. And or maybe end of 2019, doesn't matter. So yeah, when you messaged me, I think I had like, I don't know, like 4,000 followers or something. I mean, it was still a pretty good following, but it wasn't where it is now. And I think it only started picking up when I actually started sharing, not just journaling, because I was just journaling before, getting it out, and it was very therapeutic for me and helped me heal from my postpartum depression significantly. And then I started doing more than journaling because people were relating, and so I was like, okay, well, what if I talk about like how I fixed that? Because people were messaging me and they're like, what did you do? How'd you get sober? And I was like, I went to AA. Like, I don't know what else. And so
Right. Imagine
go
that.
to a meeting.
Yeah.
It's the easiest start, and you can go from there. You know, it's
Right.
nothing wrong with trying it. And that's what I tell people. And it's, you know, because like I said, I stopped going, I don't know, 9 months into it. I didn't even get to the 1 year. But I kept those principles, and I kept seeing a therapist, and I kept growing and intentionally growing and aiming for the next step up. And I wasn't dwelling on anything that was negative, right? I was focusing on moving up. And I felt like because I was so young, I had to catch up to all these other people my age. And I wanted to be the biggest and best. And I wanted to, you know, be this big wig somewhere. And, you know, and so I had to hurry. So I hustled and I worked really hard at getting where I am now. And I tell people, I'm like, you just have to want it really bad. Like really bad. And so
And then you have to do the work.
Right.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
and real quick here, too, and I'm not going to, I know how old you are and I know how long you've been sober. I think it's important, and I think we think it's important. If you want to share when you got sober and how long you've been sober and how old you are now, I think that's, and I hate to use the word inspiration, but I think it is, you know, because when people get sober young-ish, so it's up to you, but, you know, you're not an old fuck like we are, you know, so.
Right.
No, I'm proud of my age. I turned 40 in January, and I'm really looking forward to it because I survived to 40, and I never thought I would. So here we are.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like when I turned 50, that was, you know, everybody's like, oh, are you hung up on that? I was like, no, I should be dead. I'm glad I made it to 50.
Yeah,
and I mean,
that's epic.
I shouldn't have made it to my 42nd birthday from what everyone said. And I mean, now I'm 54. I don't give a shit, you know. So, but the thing of it is, and that's right. So, I hit you with the don't front thing last year because I met you right before your birthday. And this is Christine Mike that I hit with the no fronts, and she's like, no fronts.
Yep.
and Christine Mike is the one that it's a drug term, of course, like I explained. But we use it all the time. But I know I hit you with that when it was like the day before your birthday, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be 39 tomorrow. And I'm like, no fronts.
Yeah,
right? You're not there yet.
I know. And you know what? Because so I've been sober for 11 years. It'll be 12 on the December 22nd, but I'm not there yet.
Right.
But the article that was posted, she put on the header, woman 12 years sober. And I was like, she didn't use my words.
Yeah, we had
that's okay.
Well, we talked about that one time too, because I had a sponsor a few years ago that did that. Saw him on a Friday, and my sobriety or my anniversary was on a Monday, and he's like, "Happy anniversary!" I'm like, "Nope, talk to me on Monday, man." You know, I'm like, "No,
yeah, don't jinx it."
No,
yeah, haven't earned it yet.
Yeah. So we're huge proponents of that. But now, next question too, before you go on with your page, because I think that's really interesting, and again, how much has blown up, but. Were you the one that was telling me that you felt uncomfortable at AA meetings, more kind of like man-centric, that sort of thing? Okay. So, and I think that's interesting, and if you don't mind, talk about that for just a couple of minutes, because we both got sober in Cleveland. I mean, that's where I'm at today too, and that's we get so many female friends that got sober and stayed sober and are still active in AA.
Mm-hmm.
So you were literally like the first one that I had ever heard, a female that said that that sort of thing. So it intrigued me, but I'm just interested if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, it wasn't my intent to leave AA. It just kind of happened that way. But I I didn't. So Vacaville. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, the noise just sounded weird. Okay, so Vacaville, where I'm originally from.
Vacavel.
What'd you say?
I said Vacavel.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Depends on
right,
what
yeah.
device you're using for it to say.
Exactly. Yeah. Again,
Um,
I spent a lot of time in Sacramento, so I know it well.
Yeah, so I grew up in Vacaville, well, for the most part, and it's a very cliquey town, and it's bigger, a little bit bigger now, and but it's still
Right.
very, very white, very cliquey, very just not what Sacramento is. I love Sacramento so much.
Yeah.
And so the meetings were the ones that I went to, at least, were mostly full of older people. There were a couple young people, but I generally knew them from the bar, like if I saw them. And there was one
Right.
in particular who kept coming, bless his heart, he kept coming back, but it was like every other day was his day number one. And I was like, dude, I can't, this does not seem right. Like this, I can't socialize with this guy. He's, I'd be out front smoking cigarettes with him because he was my age. And I was like, I don't think I relate to anyone in here because the people my age aren't really ready. And the people that are here that are super into it are at that time super old, right?
Right.
I was in my 20s. And I don't know of any younger meetings when I was back in Vacaville, but also at the time, like we didn't have like social media like it is now.
Right.
I didn't have like websites I could search for. I mean, we had MapQuest, right? So it was
Right.
like, times were different 12 years ago.
Right.
It changes quickly. So yeah, I didn't really relate to anybody, but it was important for me to still go. I mean, the people were nice, and the stories I related to, and they're very comforting, and they always had my back. And I started talking in the meetings, and I remember specifically this one lady one time coming in, and she said, "Okay, it's great that you guys are all here, but you guys are just you're just doing the same thing." Except for without a bar. This is, you guys are you keep coming in here. You're not living life. You're not getting out of these rooms. You're just coming in here, sharing stories and just living in here. And it was like,
Right.
at first I was like, what a bitch. But then after I moved, I was kind of like, wow, she's kind of right. Like, I do need to explore more, and I do need to get out of Vacaville. And there is more to this than just going to meetings. And
Oh,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I say all the time, I didn't get sober to sit in church basements.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
and that's kind of what they were doing. And the other meetings that I went to, they'd have like the bus full of the guys from like rehab or whatever that came to the meetings. I keep seeing memes
Right.
about the bus. So they would come, and then those guys would just like start Google eyes, and I was like, nope, I don't belong here, because being a young woman in those rooms, I could see that it was an issue. And I was like, yeah, why can't I get away from this? And so I didn't know of any women's meetings, and I wish I had looked. But the one I found that I really enjoyed was a meditation meeting. And so after my days at work, I'd go meditate, and then nobody really talked that much. We'd have a little
Right.
subject afterwards, but I didn't have to really deal with anything other than finding peace. And I was like, ooh, I like this. And so then it just became a
Right.
collection of things that I learned in the room, things that I didn't like about those people, but things that they said. And I just started putting it all together differently. And I think maybe if I had found a group of women that I related with, I would have stayed. But I think it was more of the age that I really had a hard time with.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and that
uh,
and that was one of those things where I mean, I know that there's a ton of women's meetings in Cleveland, So, and we were when we first got sober. Well, we went to a meeting last night. It was our home group for years, and it's men's meeting, So, and it just and a lot of people talk about that, that women heal women, men heal men, and it was huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, yeah, it seems like you at a point, like, well, I want to be a mixed meeting and things like that. There was plenty of guys that we knew that get all dressed up on a Friday night and hit whatever mixed meetings because they were going there to mess around with women. But we went to this meeting, and it was a men's meeting. So that's what I was curious about. So it sounds like once again, it was the meetings themselves, because that's what I was thinking in my head. Was it the area? Was it the meetings? Was it the people? So it was interesting to me because I had never heard that mindset before. So I mean, thank you obviously for going through that.
Yeah, I just don't think I have enough options.
Sure.
Right, and that's I was just going to say. We're blessed here in Cleveland because we've got. I mean, there's men's meetings, there's women's meetings, there's young people's meetings, there's gay meetings, there's everything here. So you will find, if you want to look for it, you will find your niche in the rooms. But again, if you're working the principles and you're working the program and doing what is suggested of you, you don't need to go sit in a church basement every night. You just don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really resonated me with what she said. But it was funny because at first I was like, dude, this lady, she's coming in these rooms and insulting everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, and every once in a while we need a good insult. I know we've had a couple over the years, but so back to your page. So you're posting all this stuff, and I mean, granted, now you went from, and I don't remember. I remembered I was blown away by whatever number of followers that you had at that time. But I mean, we started from scratch. I think I had like 100 on the first name that I had set up, and then tried to build that back. And you were one of the people that followed us over, and then we just kind of started doing our thing. But yeah, I mean, I started seeing your page grow and grow and grow, and it's just kind of like the movie line, so what would you say you do here? I'm like, I'm watching you. That's why I started asking you questions. How do we do this? What do we do? I mean, yes, we want to gain in followers, but the more important part is, I mean, I know for a fact that you help a lot of people, and your posts help a lot of people, and you've talked to me about the people that you help and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's up to you. You can share as much as you want about that because I think it's huge.
Yeah, and that's I think that's really when I started gaining more
Are you saying
followers.
it
I
was
hate
me?
to call them.
Was it because of me?
Yeah, it was you.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure.
Um, no, I mean, so I don't even like calling them followers because we have a community, and I usually call it a community.
Sure.
Because it really has become, where people comment, and I know people's handles, and they message me, and when we message them, and there's other sober accounts that I socialize with, but really I think most of the people that I talk to are people that have just regular accounts, that are just regular people who have struggled with addiction or still actively struggling with addiction, and they are like, I've never felt so seen. And a lot of the people aren't going to meetings. And, I always, when people ask, like, what do I do? The first thing I always ask is if they've ever tried a meeting. Because even though
Right.
I don't go to A and I don't always think it's required, but I always recommend it because it's such a good starting point. So anyways, I ask, and plus you have to really man up to, or I shouldn't say man, woman up to go in those
Person
rooms.
up.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And so I'm like, yeah, if you could, be brave, just go into a room. And, sometimes I'll tell them like, okay, this is what to expect. And I'll break it down to like how I remember, okay, when you walk in, there's going to probably be a greeter, and then you're going to probably find a chair, and then they're probably going to start by saying this. And then you probably just stand up and say hello, and then sit back down and keep your mouth shut. And they're like, oh, that doesn't sound hard.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's so nice, and people will message me back and say, I went, and I love it so much. Thank you so much. And there's no better feeling than having someone message me back and say, you made a difference.
Right.
It's like, wow, like all my suffering, all that pain was for a reason. And it's like, it's so humbling because it's like, okay, God had this path for me. And I didn't know it at the time, but I know it now, and I still try to just let him steer control the wheel, because I don't know where this page is going or how I want to take it, and I don't feel like it's the way that it's been organically grown is like I don't feel like it needs to be a certain thing. I think I'm just helping people just by sharing my stories and sharing what's helped me, and by actually talking to them one-on-one, because that's what takes up a lot of my time actually, is when people message me and they're like, hey, I can't stop drinking. Or if they're like, hey, I really relate to you, blah, blah, blah. And, or my husband is having issues drinking. What do I do? And it's just being there for people. And,
right. Showing up and being available. That's 90% of it.
Yeah. And it's just like, I want to be that lady that I had when I first asked for help.
There you go.
Yeah. And so that's where I'm at. And that's where the page is at. And I think people know it. And they know that I'm not trying to get any money out of them. I don't sell anything. Right. Although there's a lady who's like, you should sell these as bumper stickers, the post I did about ethanol belongs in cars, not our bodies.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's where I'm at now. Just trucking along, helping people where I can. And I think it's also important to know, for people to know, that in order for me to do this, or to be successful in any of my sobriety or life or recovery or anything, is to set very strong boundaries.
Sure.
And for me, that's always difficult because I've got a lot going on. I've got 4 kids. We've got a million sports. I play soccer. My daughter plays like 3 different sports. It's just like, and my husband, works full time. I've recently became a stay-at-home mom, which is a whole new world for me. And so it's like, okay, I started losing it for a minute. When I was on one of my different pages, and I shut everything down. I turned my phone off. I turned my computer off. I didn't post on my page. I was just like radio silence. And I was like, okay, I got to get in touch with myself. And I wouldn't even turn my phone on, so I couldn't get text messages. I told my husband, I was like, if you need to call me, you call me through the our Echo Dot. I don't want to say her name because
right.
you know who I'm talking about.
Right. Starts with an A.
So I told him to call me on her. And so anyways, I think after about a week without my phone, maybe 5 days, it was very hard. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you want to feel like what you felt like before when you just wanted your cravings.
Withdrawal.
Yes. Turn your phone off. But after that, I was like, wow, this was very liberating. And so then when I started creating my pages, I was like, okay, I turned off all my notifications. I have the only notifications I have on my phone are my email, if they're VIP, and text messages, and like one of my kids' schools app or whatever. Everything else, Messenger, Instagram, Facebook, nothing. No notifications, because I want to be in complete control of what takes my attention. And that is crucial for my recovery. And I could just feel it. If I have too much phone time, or if I focus too much on what someone else says, my anxiety can't handle it.
Well, you and I have had a couple of conversations like that. You messaged me a couple of times. You're like, okay, here's what this motherfucker said. And then, then you're like, I think I got this all worked out, but it's like some guy said something or whatever, so you get the male opinion, which I just thought was kind of funny. But kind of going back to what you said, and I wanted to make kind of this, just to, if nothing else, echo your point, because when you said about people you're not trying to make money off it and things like that. That was one of the things that you had said to us to begin with when we were looking to have you on. You're like, I don't collaborate with people. I'm not looking to make money. I'm not looking at any of that. And then, I said, no, that's fine. I said, we're not looking at that either. We were trying to, and I was honest, we want to build our page and we want to help. And if we can do it on both ends, that's very cool. And, we've got our merchandise store and that sort of thing. But I mean, we are looking to talk to people like you, to present you to people that we're talking to and dealing with. And like I said, I mean, you're just, I've been telling Mike for a while, I'm like, you're like a female version of us, and a lot of the things you went through, your mentality, some of your posts. I mean, it's funny. I mean, there's some of the things you post, I'm like, Mike and I talked about that. We think that way. We do this. We do that. And that's why it's crazy, with that. But I respect the fact that you brought that up right away. And, it is. I mean, we want to grow. I know you're trying to grow what you're doing. And when you said the word organic, and you're the one that said to us that we've got a very genuine base of followers. And I like that fact about community, because that's kind of what I feel about the people that we have on Instagram. And they're very genuine. They're cool people. We were just talking today. I don't know that we've gotten anyone that's like gone off on us and gotten negative about anything. And we talk some shit, on our episode.
Right.
And nobody.
We do have opinions.
Yeah, and we've got strong opinions, and we're not trying to sugarcoat shit. We're not forcing AA on people or anything like that. We're not forcing our opinions on people. But I mean, we do have strong opinions, and our community, has been just super cool about it. So I just wanted to say
Mm-hmm.
that 100% what you said. That's exactly what you said to us. So you're true, and you're probably one of the most genuine people that I've met on Instagram so far.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And it's just
And I find
it's cool.
Thank you. And I think that goes a long way, and people can feel that, and like my words that I write, and the responses that I try to respond to a lot of people if I go back on there, and just to let them know that they're seen, and they're like, "Oh my God, thank you for replying to me." And I was like, "Well, this is why I'm doing it. Like I
Right.
want you to feel like you matter."
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. So, yeah, I
I
was
don't
going to
know.
talk about, I was going to say something, because you're talking about the money thing. So I do remember I had been approached by another page that wanted me to promote their app. And I was like, oh, I was so torn because there was money. And I was like, I could make money off this. And it's a really
Mm-hmm.
big thing. And I could move this to a next level. And I was talking to you, Bill.
Right.
And you're like, yeah, you should, like, it's up to you. But if it were me, I would totally do it. I was like, I don't know. Even my husband's like, do it, but I never did, and I'm glad I didn't, because I feel like I already have too much on my plate, and if
Right.
I did that, I am too type A, right? I would be too focused on growing the business aspect of it rather than
Mm-hmm.
growing the community. So,
Right, right. Well, I mean, if you read the history of AA, they definitely went through that, and they decided that they needed to have that singleness of purpose of just helping another person, helping another drunk, helping them do what we've done, to make our lives better. If you happen to make a couple bucks along the way, great, but that's not what this is about.
And Mike and I we've been approached by a few different things. The people that we've been approached by guests that we've turned
Mm-hmm.
down politely, and
Right,
we've been approached by people that want us to hey, do this and promote that, and it's usually they're messaging us on Instagram, and I'm like, hey, Mike's the other half of this. I'm going to get it out to him. We're going to talk about it. And Mike has always been my logical side. I'm more of a well, he
yeah,
has.
which is
I know
frightening.
it is. It's kind of scary, but out of the two of us, he'll think about things a little deeper than I will. So I think, oh, we could do this. This would be great, And he's like, nah, that wouldn't be so cool. And then he gets the logical side of things. We're not going to promote anything that we wouldn't use or that we wouldn't have used. So we were approached by two particular apps. One was like a meditation thing, and one was this some other. I can't remember what it
Mm-hmm.
was. Both, in my opinion, I think would be very cool for certain people, but nothing that we ever would have looked into ourselves, nothing that we ever would have
Right,
used ourselves. So we're like, hey, this sounds really cool, but we can't try to promote something that we wouldn't have done, and we won't.
right,
And to Mike's point too, that if we get involved in something like that, we can grow it and make a little bit of money on the side. Fine. If this thing grows into something bigger than both of us ever imagined, fine. But we have to keep our minds right, as far as yeah, what are we out here for? What's our purpose? We're not
right.
AA based.
Singleness of
Yeah,
purpose.
and we're not.
Yep, just trying to help another
Yeah,
drunk.
and we're not AA based, but we live by the principles. And I think Christine, I think you said
Yep,
the same thing. So yeah,
yep,
it depends on if it feels right. That's one thing, but clearly that whatever that app was didn't feel right.
yeah.
yep.
Yeah, and well, the stuff that you guys have going on definitely is worth keeping going. Those shirts are awesome. I wear mine occasionally. I don't usually wear them to like the park or anything, but
Right.
I probably should. But yeah, I don't know. You guys have been really awesome, and I do come to you actually to calm me down sometimes. I don't really turn to anyone else. Although Shay sober, I love her. I turn to her sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
I go to you. I'm like, oh my God, this bitch said that I'm violating rule number blah 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 tradition something, because I don't know these
Right.
things. Like I didn't study. I
Uh-huh.
didn't do the step work or anything. I just listened and learned. And so they're saying, you know, that I'm doing all these bad things. I'm like, look, dude, I don't know. I'm just out there helping people. I don't follow these rules. So sorry if I insulted you. And this other
Right.
guy was like, you're murdering people by your words. And I'm like,
Oh God.
I was like so upset. So I've just become a master of blocking people.
Right. Well, I mean,
Yep.
you have to be. And you've asked me about a couple of those things, and probably more, again, AA questions that, and neither one of us are as active as we used to be when it comes to meetings. Mike goes to his home group every week.
Nope.
The main time
Yep.
that I'll go to AA meetings is when I'm out here, and we hit one last night. But we're going to hang out with sober friends tonight. I do, this Instagram thing we're doing and the podcast thing. It's got me so engulfed in recovery on a daily basis, which I'm not saying that should be the choice for anyone at any point, but it works for me, but yeah, I mean, there's still, I mean, if there's, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it's some rule that you were violating, which I thought was kind of funny. And I think it was the fact that I said if you were an AA sanctioned group, kind of like, if somebody questioned what we do, just because we talk about AA, we're not affiliated, we're not sanctioned by, and we make that clear. But
Nope.
the biggest thing that Mike and I decided right off the bat, and we talked about it a couple of episodes. Neither one of us want to get to the point where we have to put a disclosure at the beginning or the end that says we're not AA based, we're not this based. And it
Right.
says right in everything that we do, we're just a couple of guys talking about recovery. Yeah, and we talk about AA because it's what we did. It's facts. We're not breaking out the big book, but we'll talk about it. We're not, having a general meeting. We're not asking for donations. We're not doing any of that stuff.
Nope.
From an AA standpoint, and it just, I don't know, it just people get these lines blurred, and we're pretty fucking clear, I think. But hey, sooner or later, I think somebody's probably going to be like, you guys, which is fine. Let them think.
Yep.
The bigger you get, the more haters you get.
Right. Well, we were talking about, and we just did, and this will be promoted in the next couple of days. But we just did something today for the podcast and for another couple of group of people that Mike and his girlfriend know. But we were just talking to him about that. That like, I mean, part of me, it's not that I can't wait, but hey, when we get haters, that means we've, I don't want to say arrived, but that means we're doing something right. If somebody hates you, you're doing something right. So, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's fine because what we're doing is trying to help people. If you want to hate us for doing that, then fine. Fuck you. Go someplace else. Go. It's fine.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Bring it on.
And we tell people, we said that on these episodes before. It baffles us because we've been told by people, Mike's girlfriend included, that we've got normies and people that are not necessarily lined up with our thinking. And the fact that they listen to us blows my mind. I'm like, why would you listen to us? Thank you. But I mean, why? But I'm like, maybe they're on the edge. Maybe they're on whatever. Let them listen. If we can help somebody, it doesn't matter. Doesn't
Right.
matter at all.
And yeah, I mean that is the bottom line. Yeah, that I will quote the big book here. Alcohol is but a symptom. We've got other issues, man, and by practicing these principles, we're making ourselves better people, and therefore helping people around us. That's all that fucking matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yes, I'm glad you said that, Mike. That alcohol is a symptom.
Yep.
Because there's on my page specifically, especially on one of the posts I just posted, people go back and forth on that and get very defensive of it about alcohol as a symptom versus alcohol being an addictive substance. And the more that I'm doing this, the more, and like Bill was saying, like I had never really been this immersed in this community up until I started doing this page. It's like my whole mindset has completely changed. But anyways, so I was like, so people have both views. Some believe in both, which is me. I think both can be true at the same time. While other people are very much like alcohol is a system or is a symptom. Like that's it. You are an alcoholic, like when you're born, and it's a disease, and it's like, okay, that's, I don't know. And so then I read, I've been reading Quit Like a Woman. I don't know if you guys have read that. And she's
I've heard of it.
She's very she's very against
I have
AA.
not.
But some of the stuff she says, I'm like, oh, okay, there's something to that. And I think a lot of it is the women aspect of it and about how AA is or was very male centric, and
Right.
Some of the stuff she brings up are good points about like women Because you're supposed to, admit your faults and that you have all these character defects and that that you're just messed up. But she was saying,
Right.
as women, we are raised to think we have character defects. We are never good enough. We have to rise above the men. We have to work hard because we're already fucked up. So I was like, yeah, maybe that's why AA didn't feel quite as right to me, because I was like, I already think I'm fucked up. I don't know. Like, I already know this. I know
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
perfect.
Well,
So,
whatever. I have testicles, and I was raised that I was fucked up already too. So
yeah, yeah, I don't know. It just goes. It's interesting to me to see these different points of views, and so I just wanted to bring that up real quick. That the people who believe that alcohol is just an addictive substance and that's just what it is, and they just happen to become addicted to it. I understand their point, and I don't know, because I'm not. That's not me.
Right.
I have an addictive personality,
Right.
and I could
Well,
become
I
addicted
mean,
to anything.
my ex-wife and I did heroin together several times. She is not a heroin addict. I am. Heroin is an addictive substance. She did it several times. She was never a heroin addict. Heroin is just a symptom of my selfishness and my self-centeredness. And I
Yeah.
firmly believe that, and I always will. Alcohol is an addictive substance. So what? So is pot, so is Coke, so is whatever. It's all just a symptom of me trying to feel good all the time and running away from my responsibilities.
Right. Yeah, that's how I am as well, and I get it.
Yep.
But I also think that the other part can be true, where people, like especially moms these days, where they're constantly alcohol is being pushed on us and promoted to us in a different way that it's never been before. And big alcohol, I do believe, is marketing. They're coming for us, and so, but we're with
coming
it.
for all
Like,
of
the
us.
women are with it, and they're all about it, and they're taking, like, yeah, wine mom, let's drink at all these meetings and blah blah blah. And so it's a very
Right.
dangerous culture for
Yeah.
women in general, whether they have a problem with addiction or not, because, like you said, I mean, it is an addictive substance, and it does provide relief, and it could be like, whoa. Someone who
Yep.
never really had addiction problems before is like, okay, yeah, this is easy. I'm just going to keep turning to alcohol. This is easy.
And again, people, have you watched a football game and seen the commercials?
Right.
Yeah, they're going after men too.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
They're going after men
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah, they have been. That's the thing. They
Right.
have been for a long time, and there wasn't all these
Yep.
fruity drinks and whatnot. So they're broadening their. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
so it's just a different outlook, and I try to respect the people that do believe that, and the people that don't, and I think that both can be true. And it just really irks me, though, when I have people fighting on my page and saying, no, you're wrong.
Right.
And they're like, no, you're wrong. And it's like, I have to chime in and say, listen, you both can be right. No, this is all.
And you can both be
Nobody
wrong.
knows each other's brains. We're all different. We all react differently to chemical substances, and we all have different backgrounds and different weaknesses. And so I try to keep the peace. But sometimes, like I said, I just have to block people.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And sometimes I say, you guys want to fight, go ahead. I look for the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah, and that's, thankfully, I don't even think, I'm trying to think if we've ever even had, we probably had a couple of people, kind of go at each other a little bit on our Instagram page, but that's the same thing, the bigger that you get, the more activity you get, the more different, mindsets of people and things like that, and it is.
The more assholes you get.
Yeah, that is 100% absolutely true. So,
Yep.
and we're a little over like an hour and 10 right now, and Christine, it's up to you. Did you
shoot.
have questions you want to ask us, or are you good with what you want to talk about? You want to talk more about your page? We want you to focus on what you're doing more so. Questions for us are probably not as important as what you want to talk about or wrap up with, but it's up to you.
No, I just think, the questions that I had are just kind of things that we've even gone over, like, Well, actually, I did want to ask though. So when you guys went to rehab, because my experience is different in that I was like desperate. I gotta go to detox. I'm gonna die. I was very passionate about it. But I think Mike or Bill, you had mentioned to me once before. Maybe I'm wrong. That you were still in denial when you were in rehab.
Oh yeah,
Am I
yeah,
right?
100%. I mean,
Okay.
I was taken to detox, told that that was my only choice, taken to the sober living facility, didn't want to be there, super fucking angry. And that's what Mike and I met. So I mean, he actually, I can all these stories that I tell could be half the time he's just like, yeah, yeah, you were.
Yeah, yeah,
And
you were.
it took me probably 9 months to come into my own with realizing that I wanted to be sober and stay sober. But Mike, on the other hand, you came in a little bit different with that.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, it wasn't my first rodeo. So at that point, I knew there was a solution, and I finally admitted to the fact that I was going to have to work for it, that it wasn't going to be given to me like everything else in my fucking life was given to me.
Uh
And,
huh.
so yeah, so I was ready to do the work that I knew was necessary to change my mindset so I could live in this world as a sober person. Yeah, but so I was ready to do the work at that point. Um, but there were plenty of times before that where I wasn't. Again, as a taker, I expected the world to get me sober, or better yet, teach me how to drink and not fuck my life up.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't
Yeah.
happen. Imagine that.
Well, and you know what's funny too is
Yeah.
that I say it now, I didn't realize it at the time, but like the number one, well, they say the only requirement for AA membership is the desire to stop drinking, which is a really low fucking bar. But I didn't
Right.
fulfill that requirement, and I knew it sort of, but I stuck around long enough. But the thing with it is, and the reason that I bring that up, and the reason Mike and I have talked about those things so much is that even though it wasn't, again, it's his first rodeo, like he said, at the time that he came in, and the episode number 4 explains that a lot. We talk about when we first walked into the Keating Center, which is where we got sober, and he was all fucking
Hmm.
rainbows and flowers, and I was just like, fuck this and fuck you.
Yeah, and you definitely were
Right,
not.
yeah, and and it was this stark difference. But you know what? It didn't. That my whole point with that is that for people who don't let that requirement, if you're thinking about it, and even if you're forced to go in there, we've got plenty of people. It doesn't matter what brought you here. Doesn't matter, Christine, what brought you there, what brought me there, what brought Mike there. I mean, all these years later, we're at the same place. So it's cool. It's just all you got to do. What did they say? They say bring the body and the mind will follow. Was the biggest thing we heard.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I was just curious because I have people ask, it's usually like significant others or, something like that. And they're like, okay, well, they're committing to go to rehab or this is their third time going to rehab. Like, what do I do to get them to, all that? And it's like, well, you can't really do
right.
anything, right?
Yeah,
But that's
exactly.
why
That's our answer. You
I was
can't do a
hoping to
fucking
have some
thing.
kind of, what?
Guys, yeah, that's the answer. You can't do a fucking thing. They've got
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah. But I was hoping to
Yep.
give them, some kind of like, okay, well, my friend Bill here, he went to rehab. He didn't want to be there, but yet somehow he got sober.
Mhm.
So I guess I would just want to say, okay, if they keep going to meetings or if they're dedicated to it, like, what do you think I should say to those people other than you can't do
Honestly,
anything?
right. Well, yeah, someone that isn't that person, there's nothing they can do. The example, and we've talked about it on here before. Our friend Tony, his wife went in. They were running partners together, and she said, "I can't be with you anymore." They've been married for a long time, and her sponsor said, "You gotta put this guy to the side. You can't have anything to do with him." And she told him that, and he came into the rooms and he started doing the work to prove that this thing didn't work. He was like, I'm going to work the steps to the best of my ability and show you fuckers that it doesn't work. He's 9 years sober now because he did the work and not
Oh,
believing it,
really? Oh, that's a funny
doing it
story.
completely, yeah,
That's
doing it
good.
completely out of spite. He did the work, he took the actions, and that's part of mine too. I'm an atheist. I pray every day. I take the action even if I don't believe in it, even if I don't think it matters, even if I don't understand it. I do what they tell me to do. And guess what? I get the results. I'm sober. I have peace and serenity that they promised me. Fucking cool, man.
So my question then for you, Mike, would be: so if you're an atheist, I'm a Catholic, so I'm
Yeah.
like, oh no, I'm not
Right,
judging.
right.
I'm not
That's
judging
the
you at
reaction
all.
I had when you. That's the reaction I had when you said you were Catholic. Go ahead.
No. But I recently converted to Catholicism because it
Okay.
has so much structure that I needed. But anyways,
Right. Yeah.
so if you're praying, which is wonderful. Now, do you think
Yeah.
it's more because it's like a meditation kind of, or like why do you think that's helping you?
Yes, that's part of it. Part of it for me is a reminder to myself every day of exactly what I am and that I need to do things to arrest that my nature. Um, and again, don't need to completely understand it. It's something they told me I have to do, so I do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah,
And that's even with religion. You don't have to understand
right,
it. You just got to
right.
be there.
Well,
Yeah, show up and
yeah,
do the
and,
work.
and and with me,
Yeah.
I'm like right in the middle. So for everyone that's listening, you got all three extremes. You got an atheist, you got an agnostic, which is me, and you got somebody who's obviously on from basically what you're saying on the Catholic side of things. So you get in all of us are. I mean, so you're 11 years sober. You're not that far behind us, So again, the same thing. We try to tell people that all the time is that hey, you can come into this thing without having that. People get worried about this whole religious thing. I bring Mike up all the time, and then I'm like, we got true religious people that we know. We got people like myself in the
Hmm.
middle. We got atheists on the other side. This thing works if you do. To Mike's point, it's the action that helps me included, but obviously more so on his end. So yeah, it's funny how that works.
Yeah, and I am listening on audiobook, the Russell Brand's
Oh sure, yeah,
Recovery. I don't know if have you ever
Hmm.
you
guys
mentioned that to
read or
me.
listened
You
to
mentioned it
that?
to me, but I haven't.
Yeah, well, I like it on audiobook because his voice is so sexy. But, but
That's what I was
I can
looking
listen
for.
all
That's what I
day.
was looking for too.
So the book's probably good for you guys. I actually have both. I have the book and the audio version. But he was talking about that his sponsor, or the one that introduced him, I don't know if I think it's his sponsor, but that he's
Hmm.
an atheist as well. Because he was like the same thing. Like, I don't know, I'm not going to be in there praying and all this other stuff. But when he was talking about a higher power, he learned that it was any loving source, anything that if it's the universe or whatever it is, something that's comforting and loving and that's bigger than
Right.
you. And
Right.
I was like,
Something
yeah, I love
positive.
that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. So that just stood out to me because he learned that through his atheist sponsor.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we were
So,
told right off the bat. Just realize that it wasn't us. I mean, Mike was the term love, and it was a Beatles song, and it was all these different things, and I just had to realize that it wasn't me, and I developed something over time. That's all that it was. Yeah.
Hmm. Yep.
very cool. Well, I think that's all
Cool.
the questions I really have that are
Okay.
relevant.
Well, and like I
So,
said, I mean, I obviously we wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about, in a great conversation. I mean, especially I'm glad you went through the progression with your page too and your story. If anyone's listening and things like that, we just reposted a link to it, but go on Christine's page. She's also got a link to that article that was posted about her, and that's her whole story, top to bottom, right? If I'm
I mean, what would fit into a couple pages?
Right, but it
Right.
is. It's a nice detailed thing, and I mean, we always tell people, hey, we usually don't go through our entire stories, even when we've been on two other podcasts as guests. We're like, go listen to episode 1, go listen to episode 3. We talked about it endlessly, but it's a great
Yep.
place, and I know that from what it sounded like, you hadn't shared that too much. So, the other thing is, I will put in the episode description, obviously a link to your Instagram page. Well, obviously we'll promote you on our page and stuff like that. But I always tell people if they're not following you, they should. And after listening to this, they should follow you. There's even more reason, I guess, to follow you. So, but yeah, it's been great. I think
Aw.
I'm glad you went through all that information. I think it fit together fine. So.
I know. Hopefully, I didn't talk too much. Like in the middle of it, I was like, I feel like I'm talking too much. But it's hard not to explain how I got to where I am with
Right.
telling them how bad I was. Because people are like, it's impossible. I'm like, you have no idea.
Right.
No, I mean,
So,
I don't think you talked too much at all. And you had in my opinion, hopefully Mike, I think Mike feels the same way. Is that because we've had, obviously talked to a lot of people over the years, but relatively few number of guests. But it's difficult to bust this stuff up into all these different things. But no, you didn't talk too much, and we went a little bit longer on other episodes too, and when we've got the right amount of information and the right person. I mean, we could probably sit here and talk to you for another hour, but we don't have time. So hey.
I
Right.
know. It's so nice to actually talk to you in person versus like the paragraph conversations on Insta.
Yeah, well, thank you for finally, and I'm just like I said, I kept mentioning you on the podcast, being like, we're gonna get her on sooner or later. We're gonna get her on. You're like, when I have time, when I have time, when I have time.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is a very big deal. I have never been on anyone's podcast
Really?
before, and I probably won't go on many in the future. Yeah. Because I have like, I don't know, I don't have like a fear of public speaking, but I was so traumatized by this one time where it was like live streaming in front of it was the 2020 mom thing and they're national and I froze. Oh, it was so embarrassing. I'll never forget it. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't want to embarrass myself. So it actually, you know what? You guys made me feel a lot better and about everything. So
Good.
thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
Such good
that's
hosts.
part of the reason why we stick to audio only too. Excuse me, because I find it more comforting. We're just talking. We're just three people having a conversation, and eventually some other people will listen
Right.
to it.
Yeah, Mike and I
Hopefully.
joked about that too because we've had a couple of people tell us that came on that they were nervous, and I'm like, we're having a conversation. Don't worry about it. We're talking. That's all we're looking at doing, and it feels a little bit more natural that way. So good. Well, I'm glad that you weren't like freaking out and you didn't like pass out or something like that in the middle of this from nervousness or anything.
I know. It worked. We're good.
So, anything else
Nope.
that you want to get out there? Anything else before we wrap up, or are you good?
I don't know. Other than wish me luck on my game tomorrow. I have a really big soccer game.
Well, yeah, good luck on your life and your 4 kids and all the stress and hassle.
I
But
know.
also good luck on your soccer game.
Thank you. And that's one other thing I want people to know is that you are never too old to get back into sports. And if you are, if you're struggling with early addiction or, with early recovery and looking for things, get into a sport because it's addicting in a good way. Like the endorphins
Right.
are, amazing. So
Okay.
Yep.
that's all. That's what I'm going to
All right. So
Cool.
have you and I know you've listened to bits and pieces. Have you heard of how we end our episodes recently or no? Okay, because
No.
Mike gets a little mouthy here, but I think you'll laugh at it. But first of all, I always ask him. I'm like, Mike, anything else on your mind?
Not a goddamn thing.
All right, so Christine, you and I are going to sit back. We're going to get quiet for a minute and let Mike close us out. Okay?
All right.
All right. Well, Christine, thank you very much for coming on and talking to us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. As always, be kind to each other, be good to each other, do something nice for somebody else this week, and please, fuck off. Then keep fucking off. And keep fucking off till you get to a gate with a sign on it saying you can't fuck off past here. Climb over that gate. Dream the impossible dream. And keep fucking off forever.
Okay, so
I've never heard that, but that was
yeah,
amazing.
we started. So that particular ending, our sister gave us that. It was a meme that she sent us a few weeks ago. But yeah, he's done the fuck off thing for probably since episode 5 or 6, I think. But I love it. I love it every single time. So all right, with that, Christine, wonderful having you on. Thank you again very much, Mike. I love you, brother, and we'll talk to you soon.
Love you too. Yes, you will, because you're in the next room,
we're literally-
asshole.
Yeah, I always say that to him, but literally, I could open the door and then I'll be able to see into his room too. So yeah, we're right across the hall. Yeah.
Oh, how
Cute.
cute.
It is. It's just fucking adorable.
Yes,
All
it
right,
is.
guys. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.